Hello everyone and welcome back to Closet Gaming. Today we're going to take a look at Flatout 4 Total Insanity. This new installment in the very popular Flatout series promises more arcadey driving, more explosions, and more ridiculous game modes than ever before. It is available on Steam for €44.99 or your regional equivalent. Who among us hasn't played some game from the Flatout series in the past? I don't think there will be a lot of people watching this who haven't at least had the chance to play this game at a friend's house, but even more likely, you owned one or more of the previous games yourself. And if I should be totally honest, I think the creators for got a bit stuck in the old times. But that isn't necessarily a totally bad thing. But before I explain to you why exactly I think that, we should take a look at what the game has to offer in terms of mechanics, modes, and all the other stuff you will be doing in game. So let's start right off the bat with the thing you will most likely spend the vast majority of your gameplay time with if you're playing this as a racing game. The races, obviously. And first of all the races are first divided into three basic categories, based on what type of car you want to drive with. You start with the derby cars, essentially old wrecks fitted with powerful engines, nitro, and anything a speed and explosion loving maniac might want. Then you move on to the classic cars, which are really similar to the derby in terms of getting the powerful motors, boost, and all else your heart desires. But this time, instead of wrecks, you get a chance to drive your Joe Everyday's car. And last of all, we have the all-star category, where everything just gets more extreme than you might consider even under a cocaine-induced blood rage. Each of these categories then gives you 8 different cups, series of races to speed and wreck through. Each of these cups is then comprised of a number of races, ranging from 2 races from the starter cups up to 6 races in the final cup for each category. And to be honest, this is a freaking huge amount of racing available to you. But, so you don't get bored with just driving around the game circuits, each of the game categories also has 8 additional events for you to compete in, and these are either time trials, where you're racing against the clock, but to make it a bit harder, you don't get a chance to use your nitro in this mode, and arena survival, where you and 11 other cars are put into giant arenas, and the only goal is to wreak havoc, and, well, to survive as well. And you do have 2 ways to engage in any of these types of races. Either you can play the career mode, where you progress through these cups, starting with the derby cars and building your way and money reserve up to being able to compete in the all-star category. Or, if you're just in the mood for a single race, you can always use the quick play mode, where you just set up what mode you want to play, which type of it, on what track, and on top of that you get 2 modifiers, the nitro gain percentage and the damage modifier. Plus, in certain types of races, you get to set up how many laps or how long will this mode last. So now we know what type of races are available, and we should talk a bit how they feel. I have spent about 5 hours racing in Flatout 4, and in general, the races do feel good. Driving is satisfyingly arcadey, the destruction you can create is just awesome, whether you want to smash other cars or wreck the environment, which, by the way, is very destructible. So many things along the tracks can be smashed, and the game even takes a bit of their weight into consideration, as some of the things along the track will slow you down far more than the others. And while I enjoy the racing for the most part, I do have a few gripes with it. The first is that the game sometimes feels a bit inconsistent on how you feel over certain objects, like train tracks for example. Sometimes you will go over them almost without a bump, but on occasion it will make your car go completely haywire. But luckily, this wasn't the case very often, but still, it was more than irritating when it did happen. The second issue I have is with the fact that the game does feel very unfair at times. And for a casual arcade racer, I don't think this is the correct way to go with the difficulty of the game. And what I mean by unfair is the fact that some of your foes in races just have much faster cars than you have, even if your car is fully upgraded. So if you get unlucky, you are just unable to win a race due to the fact that your foes will be quicker. That means you have to draw without major flaws if you want to win every time. But altogether, the racing feels good. Not the greatest, as I do remember enjoying some of the older Flatout installments better, but still good enough. Okay, that's it for the races, but Flatout has always had a big say in purely fun modes, where the aim is something ridiculous. Now we will look at these stunts, as they are called in Flatout 4. Just to make it clear, these modes are something that is best played with a friend, so you can compete with each other for scores, making them perfect party games. We start with total destruction, and probably the easiest way for me to describe this is by calling it Flatout Angry Birds. Your aim is to destroy as much of the environment as you can. Secondly, we have golf, and as the game mode's name suggests, you play golf. You want to get your driver that is being ejected from the car as close to the holes or ideally into the holes. Next is long jump, and I don't think I need to say more than fly baby, fly as far as possible. Then we have the billiards mode, which for those that are unfamiliar with bar games is a version of pool, where you need to put the balls into pockets on the side of the table, and that is exactly what you are doing here. Next, we have finish pins, which is sort of a variant of bowling, but instead of trying to make all the pins fall, you are trying to make only certain pins fall down, making the value of pins on the ground exactly 25 in the end. I will be honest, I have no idea how the scoring works in the finish pins mode. But nonetheless, the next stunt mode is cup pong. And if any of you ever attended university or at least saw a movie that happened in American universities, you will most likely know what this is. You need to get the driver into the cups. Then we get to one of the Flatout classics, Rings of Fire, where the ejected driver has to fly between as many fiery rings as you can get him to. After this mode, we have the soccer mode, but a better name would be free kick in my opinion. Here the aim is to score a goal through the line of defenders and a goalie defending the goal. Another sports-inspired mode is baseball, where you're essentially the pitcher, but instead of wanting to miss the bat, you want to hit it. We will follow this by stone skipping, which was one of my favorite childhood games, and it pretty much is the same here. You want your driver to go as far as possible, getting as many jumps from the water as you can. And the penultimate stunt is curling. One trying to represent one of the strangest things to ever be called a sport in my opinion. You know, the thing where sweeping the ice with brooms is a part of it. And to be honest, I like this mode better than the original. So your goal here is to get the driver as close to the center of the space you're landing in as possible. And the last mode is high jump. And I don't think I have to say anything about this mode at all. All of these stunts have a few things in common. First off, you are given a very different car than you have in the races. This car has a big ass rocket and thus gets really fast quick. And that is very much needed because the stunts require your driver to fly out of the car at very high speeds. The second thing all of these modes have in common is the fact that somewhere along the way you eject the driver out of the vehicle. On PCs, this is done using the shift key. So you press it, hold it for a while to get him flying out at a right angle and then release. Then in the air, you can push it one more time to give him a bit of a nudge, either to gain a little bit more height, speed, or whatever you need to get the best score in the particular mode you are playing at the moment. And there is one more thing, and I already mentioned this, but it is something that should be repeated. All of the stunts are something you are far more likely to enjoy if you're playing it with friends trying to compete with each other. This does really make them super good party games for nerds, as trying to score the highest jump while alone just isn't the same thing compared to yelling at your friends while drunk. Treat them as such. But even if they're just that, mini games that you'll play only with your friends, it is so awesome that the developers put in the time to implement them in. Now that we talk about most of the gameplay, let's take a look at how the graphics feel. The game uses the KTHD engine, which was developed by the Kyloton studio, also known as KD Racing Games, and does a pretty good job at looking good while being well optimized. As you can see from the footage, the game looks pretty nice. For once, I can actually say I like the effects better than I like the rest of the game, especially the dust, ice, or whatever is flying from behind the cars in front of you does look really good. Though it makes the game much harder if you're chasing after someone. The textures could use a bit more detail in my opinion, especially if you take into consideration the fact that I'm actually running the game at 4K, even though I have only a 1080p monitor, so upscaled essentially. But they aren't particularly bad. One thing the Flatout series is well known for is its music. The games always use these punk rock and metal songs, and the tradition wasn't broken here. And if you're a fan of this genre of music, you might even be willing to find more of some of these bands and download their music. While I do like punk and punk rock, I'm also very conservative in what bands I listen in my spare time to, so I didn't do that. But I did enjoy most of these songs, and even if you don't like them, you can easily skip them with a push of a single button. Now on to performance. As I already mentioned in the graphics parts of the review, the game is more than well optimized, running above 60 FPS on my rig even in 4K resolutions and well above 150 Fps in 1080p. And except for the occasional weird interaction of the collision model, the game didn't seem to have any bugs, nor did I experience any crashes. So, in conclusion, Flatout 4 Total Insanity is a decent arcade racer. It isn't ground shaking, nor it is the best arcade racer at the market. It does fill a place of a game that doesn't totally focus just on racing, and there will no doubt be many people who will highly enjoy this. And if you're one of them, I will certainly recommend Flatout 4 to you. But if you aren't in a rush, I would suggest you wait for a sale, because the current price of $44.99 is a bit too high in my opinion. Something along the lines of 25 to 30 euros or dollars would be the price I would recommend this game very happily for. Well, that's it for today guys. Hope you liked the review, and if you did, please consider liking it, subscribing to my channel for more gamer reviews, and comment if you had something you would like to add. And if you didn't like the video, well, dislike it. See you all next time with more gaming content.